They won't make up the entire loss of grant funding for every student, but they will go a long way to keeping college accessible. Keeping in mind the multiple advantages of education and knowing that a great deal of aid is still out there, I want to make the first of 3 final points to you today. Here's the first. In the words of the head of the National Center for Public Policy and Higher Education, the only thing worse than borrowing is not borrowing and not going to college. Point 1. Here's the second point I want to make to you. Even high school students can help minimize costs. First and foremost, they can take as many rigorous courses as possible in high school, especially advanced placement courses that allow them to test out of introductory college courses. Obviously, that saves time and money. Kent State's financial aid director tells me that there's one cost-cutting strategy that stands above the rest, and I love this one. Take a heavier than average course load and graduate as quickly as possible. The truth is, it's more effective to blaze through the curriculum and not hold a part-time job than to take an average course load and work 1 or more jobs. I urge prospective students and their families to be proactive because there are a whole range of in-house scholarships that are available. Despite the economic turndown that we've experienced during this last year, we had the best fundraising year ever in history, and so much of that money went to student scholarships. In fact, it included $5 million in new private commitments for scholarships. Kent State offers innovative payment programs as well. You should take advantage of them. My third and final takeaway is that Ohio universities like Kent State and most others throughout our nation are well run, provide an enormous return on investment to taxpayers, and are always striving to create an educated workforce. The graduates we produce allow existing businesses and industries to compete, survive, and thrive. And they are key to spawning and attracting new businesses, new industry, and most important, new jobs. At the end of the day, each of us must do our part to encourage strong state and federal investments in education at all points along the continuum. Without them, our inability to compete in a global, knowledge-based, innovation-driven world will lead to a bleak future. Finally, I ask you to remember the Mary Rudolphs and Emily Nazowskis around us, people of all ages and backgrounds who want so desperately to build successful lives and make their mark in the world, and whose talents and motivation the world needs. I'm delighted to report that Mary and Emily are stellar students with bright and terrific futures. For their sakes and all our sakes, I can't wait to hand them their Kent State diplomas, the diplomas that they've been dreaming about. Thank you very much.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to Dr. Lester Lefton, president of Kent State University. We will return to our speaker in a minute for our traditional City Club questions. We encourage you to formulate your questions now and remind you that your questions should be brief and to the point. We welcome all of you here and those listening to WCPN 90.3 FM, WCLV, WTAM, and one of our many radio stations across the country. Radio broadcasts of the City Club are made possible through the generous support of Case Western Reserve University. Our television broadcast partners are WVIZ PBS IdeaStream and Time Warner Cable. Television broadcasts are supported by National City, now a part of PNC, and Cleveland State University. Closed captioning is supported by Nordson Corporation. Our live webcasts are supported by the University of Akron. Today's forum is sponsored by Chase Bank. With us today from Chase is George Cisak, Vice President, and Ann Hantrani, Vice President. Mr. Cisak and Ms. Hantrani, would you please stand and be recognized for your help in making this program possible? I'd also like to recognize Deborah Plummer and Sue Tyler at our front table, members of the Board of Trustees. If you have any questions about the City Club, please feel free to ask them. Also today, we are pleased to welcome guests at tables hosted by Chase Bank, Kent State University, Key Bank, Medical Mutual of Ohio, and Richard L. Bowen and Associates. Now, we would like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphones today are City Club Outreach Coordinator Deborah Agosti, and PR and Programs Manager Carrie Miller. Now, first question, please.
Dr. Lefton, thank you for your very interesting remarks. Where do Kent State graduates go after they graduate? What percentage stay in Ohio, and what can an institution like Kent State do to stop the brain drain and keep more of the graduates in Ohio?
It's a great question, and it's one of the questions that all of the universities in Ohio are grappling with on a day-by-day basis. We know that the students go where there are jobs. We have career fairs, and we counsel students, and we provide them help with writing resumes, and we try to encourage them to seek as many kinds of training as possible. The days where you were only trained in one discipline are becoming few and far between. Today, students are doing double majors and triple majors to increase the likelihood that they will be employed. But the fundamental problem that we face especially in Northeast Ohio, is that so many of our students find that there isn't a job for them here. And so we're working with organizations such as Nortec. I'm on the executive committee of Nortec, and other organizations trying to create technology transfer, trying to start new businesses. We opened a research park in Kent, Ohio. We took an old bus barn and put a company that was about to leave Kent and Portage County, and not only put them into this research park, but have recruited outside businesses from out of Ohio to come to Kent and work with our students and our faculty, and we subsidize this. We give them the rent at pretty much what it cost us to run the building. So I think each of the universities are working in their own way with local businesses, trying to recruit new businesses and bring more jobs to Ohio, because it's the jobs that are going to keep the students in Ohio. We can produce an educated workforce, and unfortunately, so many of those students are leaving Northeast Ohio to go out of state. It's a real problem, and I know the governor and Lieutenant Governor Fisher are actively working at trying to bring new jobs here so that these kids will stay in Northeast Ohio, a place that we all know has an extraordinary quality of life, extraordinary cultural set of resources. Let me add one more piece on that. One of the things that we're doing along with NOCHI, the Northeast Ohio Commission on Higher Education and the Economy, the Chancellor's Office, and state legislators, is to establish a robust internship program to recruit students to come from out of state and do internships here in Northeast Ohio, so that students will come to say, hey, this is a good place to work, this is a good place to play, this is a good place to find somebody that I might want to settle down with, start a business, have babies, and pay taxes, and we like all of that. So we think internships are a great way. Internships are a great way to sort of prime the pump for businesses and for students.
Yes, Dr. Lefton, you see knowledge that is being put out by the universities. Now, to me, that's a commodity. You need to go a step further and talk about understanding. Now, if you understand where I'm coming from, go ahead if you want me to explain it.
No, I understand where you are.
Okay.
Let me talk about that. One of the things that we're doing at Kent State right now, under the leadership of our provost, Bob Frank, who's here today, is that we are redefining the curriculum. We are no longer looking at, I will teach you this and you will learn this, sort of the talking head model that many of us went through, where the professor stood at the front of the room and said, this is what you need to know, and if you know this at the end, I'm going to give you a good grade. We are now focusing on learning outcomes.